as a fish by a woman's pale hand was caught and fried and ate by she, till 9 months later a child was wrought. And from paradise he fell, and from Oroville was Elvis of Marysville. On the third day, as a child, she looked to the sky and named him Elvis, for his eyes were blue and strange and wild. And he left her then for Las Vegas. And the son of the elfin, the dolphin, the silver wheel, son of Isis, blue-eyed boy, Elvis of Marysville. On the fourth day came wisdom, when there's left little innocence, and he drew letters in the moony sand to visions of Maryland. And in a vow of eloquence, she drove her silver seal and wrote him indelible upon her starry wheel, Elvis of Marysville. On the fifth day came fame, on the golden heel of LA, and of mortal woe he low and high could sting a tear in the angel's eye. And he was great and he was good, was loved and understood by the land of the eagle, Elvis of Marysville. On the sixth day, Elvis drove to the ocean, and lo, before him, his twin, Dylan, his own crab pool reflection, slew Elvis for the hand of Maryland. And he was tied to a velvety board of silver oak and given to the gray and wavy waste after the kill of Elvis of Marysville. On the seventh day, in briny vision, far beyond Catalina Island, on the wave of his twin brother Dylan, he took the pearly hand of Maryland, and with gale forces and collapsing white horses, her misty throne unveiled to Elvis of Marysville.
Now, I'm not going to try to torture you. Would you mind reading it again? Only because I hit record after you started reading it. I thought it was recording.
Oh, okay.
Would you mind?
If it doesn't bother anybody else here, like they have to hear it again.
Please.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. You know, there's a thing called the first pancake, and on my first record, it was back in the days when they were records, you know, and the guy that produced it said, hey, there's a little trick you can do on the very middle part, right before the paper goes on, it says Capitol Records or whatever. And he says, you can write a little description in there. And so we wrote first pancake because, you know, they always come out a little interesting, right? All right, so this is called Elvis of Marysville, and inspired by my interest in mythology and watching the 10 Commandments last night, sort of my story of Moses. On the first day, he was a fish in the California aqueduct, a salmon conceived by the white water he fought. On the second day, as a fish, by a woman's pale hand was caught and fried and ate by she, till 9 months later a child was wrought. And from paradise he fell, and from Oroville was Elvis of Marysville. On the third day, as a child, she looked to the sky and named him Elvis, for his eyes were blue and strange and wild. And he left her then for Las Vegas. And the son of the elfin, the dolphin, the silver wheel, son of Isis, blue-eyed boy, Elvis of Marysville. On the fourth day came wisdom, when there is left little innocence, and he drew letters in the moony sand to visions of Maryland. and in a vow of eloquence, she drove her silver seal and wrote him indelible upon her starry wheel, Elvis of Marysville. On the seventh day came fame on the golden heel of LA, and of mortal woe he low and high could sting a tear in the angel's eye. And he was great and he was good, was loved and understood by the land of the eagle, Elvis of Marysville. On the sixth day, Elvis drove to the ocean, and lo before him his twin Dylan, his own crab pool reflection, slew Elvis for the hand of Marilyn. And he was tied to a velvety board of silver oak and given to the gray and wavy waste after the kill of Elvis of Marysville. On the seventh day, in briny vision, far beyond Catalina Island, on the wave of his twin brother Dylan, he took the pearly hand of Marilyn. And with gale forces and collapsing white horses, her mighty throne unveiled to Elvis of Marysville.
Great. Thanks for doing it again.
Yeah.
You got more?
You know, I thought I might read something I wrote last week. As we all can attest to, it's been such a peculiar time. And for me, this whole crazy time began when I got a sore throat and I told my boss, I'm too sick to come in tomorrow. I'm gonna go to the doctor. And I thought I had strep, but I didn't. I stayed home and it just continued on. I was watching a show called Breaking Bad, which I'd never seen before. And it was a great way to get my mind off of my own troubles. Well, as it turned out, the whole universe, it seemed, was going through the same thing that I was in their own way. And so my dreams have been sort of oddly, I don't know if visionary is the word, but they've said something about our time anyways. So this one I had about a week and a half ago. I had a dream this morning where I was being entertained by the convolutions and antics of a UFO spacecraft. I was outside my friend's restaurant and the ship was flying over a nearby motel. Then it would swoop down by me, then go up and twirl around. Another person saw it too. I said, man, that is one cheesy looking UFO. It looks like someone put a cheap plastic thing on a drone and it's flying it around. The only problem with that theory was that it could disappear and reappear at will. It could fly up into the clouds and suddenly be right next to you. I went inside and brought out my friend David that owned the restaurant and some others. They said they thought it was a hoax. Yeah, I thought they're probably right. Then they all went back in and I looked at it one more time. It had lured some drunk girls up to the roof of the motel. Suddenly the UFO disappeared and in its place were a bunch of entitled white fraternity guys. Some of them came down and hassled me. I went back inside the restaurant trying to shirk them off, but the fraternity aliens followed me in and did creepy tricks for the patrons and grabbed at the women customers. The owner, David, and I went back outside and saw that many humans were dead or being hassled by these weird aliens that could take a form that looked human but entirely ugly. One of them said to me, I thought you liked me. You sure liked me when I was a cute little spaceship, didn't you? Ah, come on, girl. Wouldn't you like me with a long nose? His nose went long. Would you like me with some male genitalia? Would you like me like this? He sneered. He pulled down his pants and showed me and showed us his non-functioning man parts and made a frowny face. These guys were total creeps, and they were everywhere, leaving humans like zombies in their wake. I kept thinking, Stephen Hawking was right when he said, stop sending signals out to space. The aliens that come might not be so friendly. Then I woke up and made my son, Alexander, some oatmeal before his 8 a.m. class.
Mm.
Somewhere in the comments along the way, I don't know if I can find it, I actually went back to sleep and went back into the dream. Let's see if I could, oh, here it is. So I went back to sleep from 9:30 to 11, and the dream skipped forward and continued on. Somehow the aliens lured some of us aboard their spacecraft and were taking us home. I was one, but I hadn't been zombified yet. I found another guy like me that hadn't, and he had an idea, something he'd seen on Star Trek. He was able to beam all of the aliens off the ship and into some faraway part of space. But now, how to unzombie the humans was the next challenge. I didn't go back to sleep after that, so I'm not sure how the outcome was.
Right.
Awesome.
All right.
Good.
Who's next?
I'm happy to go.
Yeah, Dave.
All right. I just have one kind of half-baked prose poem to share with you. And this is kind of in the spirit of Tom, you and I briefly played together in a band, and we decided that the ethos of the band was that, one, we would have no songs and we would never rehearse, and we would just kind of make them up as we went along. So this is very much in that spirit. So this is kind of, I'm trying to do, I'm experimenting with this form of doing a kind of prose poem to tell some stories from my past. And this one's called Living for the Song. And I decided that it would be something I would write over the last few days, because you told me about this last week. So it's work in progress. Okay. I was living for the song, or so I thought, when I decided to stop paying rent, put my things in storage, and let go of anything, everything that got in the way. Here was my plan. 1, couch surf. 2, read hard-boiled crime novels. 3, fanzines. 4, scribble in diaries. Record shit on 4-track, listen to krautrock, drink, go to record stores, weasel my way onto guest lists at TT's in the Middle East, shake hands with Billy Ray Wayne, drink, pass out, talk shit, scribble lyrics and diaries. This was the mid-90s. My band was making a record in LA because what would Blue Oyster Cult do? Thanks to our publishing deal, I had enough money to last a few months by my calculations, but if I stretched it out, who knew what I could do? Possibilities seemed relatively endless when I was living for the song. The plan was solid, so solid it freaked some people out. You don't even have an address to call your own, said the drummer in my band. Exactly. He hated the chaos it suggested, hated the mere suggestion of living in opposition to time and place, that I would embrace something so shapeless and drifting. But what else would a drummer say? My trajectory was limitless fractal dimensions, a way of dropping off the grid, a willingness to embrace unadulterated chaos, obeying only the rhythm of some furious and relentless fever dream, living for the song. The night before flying to LA, Duncan and Elsa, who had graciously let me sleep on their couch for over a week, threw a party for friends. I helped them clean the apartment, listening to jazz, Tales from Topographic Oceans, only half ironically, and WMBR. Guests turned up, most of whom I knew, some better than others. We sat around listening to records. I recall feeling slightly awkward, vaguely buzzed, telling stories, drinking whiskey, and eating pretzels. For the record, I have never really liked pretzels, at least not the kind you buy in plastic bags. I like a good soft pretzel. Who doesn't? But not this kind. Nevertheless, here I am, nervously eating them when one fell into my glass, and mid-conversation, I fished it out, reached back to comb my hair, put the half-hidden pretzel behind my head, and for some reason, maybe subconscious, once my fingers were behind my head, I let the pretzel slip and fall behind the couch. It all seemed so smooth when Elsa caught me mid-drop. What the fuck are you doing? What? Did you just throw a pretzel behind my couch? Oh shit. Yeah. Laughter, jowls open, teeth everywhere, laughter. Ha ha ha. I managed to play it off, as the others did, and the conversation shifted to gossip and whatever it was we talked about then. We didn't have the internet. I don't know what we talked about, but we talked about something. The next morning, over coffee, we talked about the pretzel. What a freak, Elsa said. Who combs their hair with a pretzel anyway? And why did you do it? Didn't know, still don't know. What did it matter anyway? Because I was living for the song. Flew to LA the next day. Don't remember much of that, but the long drive through Orange County and into LA warehouse districts, Hollywood Boulevard, eventually, but further onto Burbank, to the infamous Oakwoods, also known as the Joke Woods, with rolling green lawns and surveillance cameras. We said it was all very crying of Lot 49. Burbank then smelled of cut lawns, cleaning fluids, ambient desperation. Drive over the hill and into the valley, or at least North Hollywood, every day, where we forged hungover, moody music about heartbreak and loss, digital delay, compression and gloss, one take mistakes, instrumental breaks, one song a day, tight schedule, big budget for us. Lyrics mostly done, or at least done enough, but still changing, of course. Could we recapture the glimmer of wildness from our basement rehearsal space on 24 tracks? There was no better question to ask when I was living for the song. Every day over lunch or during breaks, the producer, who was in his 60s, regaled us with stories. LA studio life, 1970s excess, drugs, almost always the entry points, has-been guitarist brings bag of cocaine to session, winds up playing everything, including congas, uncredited, of course, or a knowing pseudonym. Cymbal rentals, which were a front for drugs a la carte, just one line item on a studio expense sheet, all of it seemingly impeccably legit. Label accountants none the wiser, bands recording, mixing, mastering records so high on drugs, so drunk, that they forgot that the kick drum track was muted, but it went to the final mix master and the A&R man's desk when he finally noticed something missing. Men who felt they were sexually broken because it could never be the same after being with a famous female rock singer. We were finding our rhythm and the stories were just getting good when our producer had to take a break in the middle of the record. Something about another band he worked on, playing the Grammys or something equally impressive. Don't worry, guys. When you hit the big time, I'll be there for you too. I'm sure you'll understand. With the new gap in our schedule, our booking agent suggested we squeeze in a show or two. Really, what else were we going to do? So, mid-album, we flew to Boston to rehearse and play a show at a festival in Northampton. Back in Boston, spring and allergies, warm in the mid-afternoon, riding the MBTA bus, snaking its way down Center Street, Jamaica Plain, midday listening to rough mixes on my Walkman. St. Tamarindo left its mark on me, and the ride out made me cry. Not sure if anyone noticed, but I didn't care because I was living for the song. Then to Northampton, van ride, trying to catch a nap, load in. I remember little of the show itself. We played well. Afterwards, watching Jizz, who were sublime, from the bar on the second floor, loaded out, stashed gear, and made it to the crowded loft party that was meant to be the place to be. After party of another after party. At the Keg, I wind up with Don and Reg, veterans of the Boston rock scene who were visibly wasted. They were older, much more hardcore, more committed to debauchery, years of booze and hard drugs under their belt. Elsa came by and said hello. Her band and Reg's shared a rehearsal space. I think she had something for her. Most guys in that scene did. I tried to work the Keg, but it was only producing foam and a few drips of beer. This thing is kicked, I said to Don and Reg. I'm going to trash the place. Reg picked up on the theme and in his way expanded, fuck that, I'm going to torch the place. We laughed. Elsa came back. Guess what? Guess what Reg said, I told Elsa. He said he's going to torch the place. Elsa laughed, but Reg's eyes got big, fixed on mine as I spoke. He didn't like it one bit. In fact, he seemed very upset about it. When Elsa walked away, he said, don't fucking tell her I'm going to torch the place, you asshole. She thinks I'm crazy. He was clearly furious, and I started to realize white flakes in his nostrils. And by the way, I got some serious shit on you. You're fucking lucky I'm not bringing that up, asshole. I will confess, I was mildly terrified. Wait, Reg has shit on me? What could it be? He walked away furious at me, refusing to talk. Next day I see him. Sunglasses, baseball hat. Reg was a pro at weathering hangovers. He seems in relatively good shape considering the night before. Hey, Dave, he says warmly. You guys sounded great last night, man. Wait, what? I'm wondering if he remembers the after party. Should I let it go? I can't. Hey, Reg, remember last night you said you were really pissed at me? His smile fades. His hand presses against his forehead. Oh, yeah. Yeah, what a night. Remember you said you had some shit on me? Halftime now. Reg was a drummer after all. Oh, yeah. Right. What was it? What was the shit you had on me? Oh, he pulls his baseball hat down. I was going to talk about the pretzel. Soon I'd been a van to Boston, back in LA, back to the Joke Woods, back to North Hollywood for more recording, more breakfast burritos, drives to the Joke Woods to North Hollywood, more gloss and grit, more stories of giants, mostly fallen, legends of rock and roll debauchery. Afraid then I wasn't going fast enough or hard enough, but at least I was living for the song. That's it.
Great. Great.
Thanks. Sorry for the length of that.
It was beautiful.
Oh, great.
Dave, you definitely have a book in you. I mean, this is definitely a book.
Thank you.
If what's his name from, who's that guy? I forgot what the band is. The guy from Oberlin who wrote a book.
They're from where?
He went to Oberlin. He's like
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. He wrote a very spiteful book about.
I did not like that book, but yeah.
Hey, if he could write a book.
If he can write a book, anyone can.
And what's in Bitch Magnet? I forget
Bitch
his name.
Magnet, yes.
Yeah.
Terrible name. Not nice person. So
Great band though. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
I don't know him that much.
yeah, it's you know, names have been changed to protect the not so innocent.
Right. Paula or Kim?
Yeah, you're ready for me?
Always ready.
Or Paula's ready, great.
All right. Paula. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Okay, so this first poem is called Flicker Fusion Threshold. And I wrote this a long time ago, and I just found it the other day. I'm like, I actually forgot what Flicker Fusion Threshold means, but it is I believe it is the point at which a flicker becomes a blur, and that's a scientific word for it. Flicker fusion threshold. The heart is not a camera. It is a motion detector, and it feels the sweep and whoosh of pursuit and retreat, of dimming and dipping and swerving, of differences, distance, and travel. It delights in the journey from tundra to savanna to equator and shudders on the way back. The heart is not a camera, and it will not preserve this moment and that lightning and that breakfast and that kiss and that kindness. It will only remember some vague beginning and ending, hope. It sees the wobble, the wave, and the flicker. And then even the flicker becomes so fine that it is lost in an invisible blur. And let's see. This is another kind of old one that I discovered the other day. I wrote it about my first husband when we were dating. So this is a really old poem. It's called At the Museum of Natural History. You forgot your membership card, so you give the clerk your name and spell it for her carefully, if impatiently. It's the first time I've heard you spell your last name, and it may not be the last time, but we don't know. Your last name, your natural history, so much older than the sparks-giving hoopla of us. No silent letters, no foreign handling, a common enough name. But the slow spelling is a new song, a code that allows us in now to everything that is behind the barricade. And I'm just gonna end up with two more recent ones that I wrote this winter. I was at a silent retreat for New Year's Eve at Ananda Ashram. I don't know if anybody here has ever been there, but it was really, it's a beautiful place. And if you've never done a silent retreat before, I highly recommend it. It's a really good way to clear your mind. So this first one is called Hymn Number 1. That's the story of, that's the glory of, that's the gory of, that's the neither nor of, that's the Piper Laurie of, that's the shut the doory of, that's the fantastic foray of, that's the hung jury of, that's the quarry of, that's the story of, that's the glory of, Gloria Dei, Gloria Dei, Gloria Dei. And from the same collection, same week, this one is called Winter Water. A skim of ice across the lake, bleary movements underneath, branches dance, berries of light just barely touch and send them into ecstasy. Freeze and thaw, freeze and thaw. Even winter water moves. And then the last one I wanted to read is not mine, but it's by Frank O'Hara. And I just stumbled across this the other day, and I love Frank O'Hara. This one is called Poem, appropriately enough. Lana Turner has collapsed. I was trotting along and suddenly it started raining and snowing. And you said it was hailing, but hailing hits you on the head hard. So it was really snowing and raining and I was in such a hurry to meet you, but the traffic was acting exactly like the sky. And suddenly I see a headline, Lana Turner has collapsed. There is no snow in Hollywood. There is no rain in California. I have been to lots of parties and acted perfectly disgraceful, but I never actually collapsed. Oh, Lana Turner, we love you. Get up. The end.
Oh, that was it?
Nice.
Yes.
That's so funny. I almost read Mary Desty's ass.
Oh, wow.
That's Frank O'Hara.
Yeah.
I love the second to last poem a lot. The one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it came from that very, very silent place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, going back to Frank O'Hara, he was only 40 when he died. Do you realize that?
Wow.
Ridiculous.
So young. Well,
Yeah.
what was the physics term that you used for it as a poem?
For which one?
It was like a physics term.
Oh, flicker,
Oh, so cool.
flicker fusion threshold.
Love that. A great
Thank-
poem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, I love your rhythms. The rhythms are great. Like,
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of internal stuff, which for me it's always that, something, not predictable, not regular, turning around. So great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Kim.
Okay. Hi. Hi.
Oh,
I'm going to read some stuff that I wrote a long time ago when I was supposed to have my first chapbook that never got published. So it's still here, and so I guess I'm just going to ramp some of it up. This one's called Here in the City. Here where life is so hard it becomes easy. Here where the sun is a chandelier. Here where the streets are gray lawns. Here where the alleys are backyards. Here where less money is more fun. Here where more children is less hassle. Here where there is always a sidewalk sale. Here where there is always somewhere else to go if you're tired of where you are. Here where we live, happy to be here. Here where out of order works best. Here where total confusion is understandable. Here where the night is as bright as the day. Here where the poets teach angels to fly. Here where the clouds play music in the sky. Here where the end offers a new beginning. Here where even if you're losing, you're winning. Here where the luck of the draw is tough. Here where even the girls play rough. Here where no one asks you why you came here to live and die. The sun alone left hanging, its lights dazzling the simple sky. It's my New York poem. Okay. This is a poem that Stu asked me to read called Intermission. These poems are all written, you can't really see on like typewritten, like old typewritten paper. Yeah, it's crazy. So sometimes I can't see it, but I'll just read slow. It's called Intermission. This typewriter lacks the necessary self-control that a machine of its caliber should possess. This typewriter lets other people than me control it, people I once knew or never even met. This typewriter is unfair, letting my old boyfriends tell me about these ancient feelings of longing and loneliness, letting this heart remember things in the old way before reality set in. Sentimental typewriter, do you still adore me? Now I feel insecure about you. Remember how we used to? Oh, typewriter, you are not the same one as that, but still I feel you know me. Those wonderful strokes of luck when we pressed things together and the result was devastating. Oh, typewriter, I forgive you everything. You are the best. Typewriter, tell me a story that will make me feel again those terrible pangs of jealousy and that exquisite pain. Typewriter, tell me you love me once again. Okay. So, sorry about this little rut in between. I don't know what I'm doing. So, okay. This is a poem I wrote called Ode to Women. Ode to Woman. The prologue is to Marianne Moore. Poured into existence like cement, wet, so easily embraced, the chance imprint of a sudden look, a glimpse or a glance, and then all at once the door closes, the sun is eclipsed, the mark is made, and no others will ply again ever so simply. Why must the child die? Why, when pained, must the adult not outcry? Answer me this one inquiry. It is important to me. Ode to Woman. Yes, oh woman, woman, yes, 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 oh woman. Assiduous portraiture, the ways in which you don't see me. The erotic excellence of this erotic, exotic idea that alone is ecstasy. More afraid to be together than apart or in pieces, you stare wide-eyed at the mysterious growth of the marble-leaved plant as it roots its deep desire for darkness, yet living only for the love of light. How can the enslaved soul sing amongst the sickened peonies, held at the end of a divining rod, nowhere the hand of the Lord? How can the enslaved soul sing without its knowing a word? Hand me my palette. It is time I showed you the color of sharps and flats, the ridges of these curving maps, the contours of my figure, very far in an outer space. The destiny of this sad guitar mingles with the dust in my cheeks. Pebbles dabble the mood, embarking on the lucidity of certain eddying emotions, the very instruments of endlessness. I feel the distant looks of ancestors toiling again through these hands, the immediacy of their elaborate dreams, where the sigh of the undead with their elemental signs pervasively bleeds through lives in strong tides of stinging dyes. And these, along with the lost precautions of strong drink that dwelt in the fabulous fabric long before the loss of amoebic unity, make for the emergence of woman, the primitive ink of this blood, a blood both menstrual and minstrel, a blood so thick and dark, a blood so deep and wide. The beautiful story of creation is really the creation of a beautiful story. The imprints along the way, the rendering of perfection in their solitary expression. The sound of my name, the syllable of my cry, the piercing swell of my ecstasy, in spite of the ugly urgency and the disastrous details, I sing my singular claim, drawn in inventive characters for the wombs of womanhood everywhere. I sing the erotic ritual of mind over matter, body and soul, creation, and excellent selves. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think that's good unless you want more. I haven't picked any more.
If you want to do more, you can do more.
Kim, the typewriter poem is excellent. I love that one.
That's the one Stu requested, so you can thank him for making sure it got on here. Thank you so much. I don't know. I could read like I guess I'll read one more. How about I read a poem? I'll read a poem called "Adieu" and see if it's a good send-off.
Okay. Sure.
It has a lot of parts, and I haven't read it for like a long time. So let's see, 10 parts of goodbye called "Adieu." 1. I am sad upon the morning's passing, although I know I won't witness the demise of this lengthy chain of short days like beads in the abacus, colored, counting the bits and pieces of time. The stones in the riverbeds lie. They cannot tell the truth, and neither can I. 2. Those men in distinguished vestments think they know everything there is to know about the nature of significance, yet they hesitate in the midst of their most glorious moments, checking their watches and asking after the hours, sometimes politely, but not as a rule. 3. I dream of Antarctica, the islands, and your apartment in New York City. I love the extremes of these places, some having been to, others entirely works of the imagination. I cannot tell you which is which. The intensity of amnesia belabors me in its point, conspiring. 4. The people of the street are the ones I miss most, next to you, who was always also in the street with me, drinking life in our aluminum and paper, holding love in our hands, simple and lovely. 5. Imposter, I call you out. I still love you. Is there any way to mend these crooked stitches in time? Any way to salvage this old auto that sped off the tracks into space before its last collision? 6. A kiss, my queendom for a kiss. This is how my life as a teenager began. I thought of tender tendrils and was shocked at the violence, hooded beneath the touches. But in certain moments I felt like a tiny cloud after a thunderstorm. 7. The various and sundry methods of persuasion rattle amongst themselves in my brain. Not one of them is as sincere as you were at the moment we first kissed. After that, you were entirely deceitful, but your guile was see-through and often charming. 8. Why won't you leave me alone? You are a ghost from that specific season of my life, the high before the lowest low, perhaps the catalyst for my becoming a winter bride alone, in love with the holy sun. 9. These feelings of sadness come and go, raising the old frames and structures of farmhouses and illusions. They penetrate everything, my love, and all the things inside me. I writhe and cry because I don't want to let you go. 10. It is done now. You are gone. There is no tomorrow in your sweeping glances, no comfort in your imaginary caress. You are a dead man without hands to reach me with. All you have left is words and a minute to speak them. It is done now. You have spoken your last. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That was great.
So maybe I'll chime in here just with a couple of them. One, these were really old poems, so I apologize for, whoops, that's okay.
Yes!
Go on.
Sorry, time's about.
Snuck it in!
I'm afraid that's all the time we.
So this poem was actually written about Hoboken when I lived there. It's 20
Hoboken.
years, yeah, it's 20 years old, but it actually, when I was looking over the poems today, it applies to right now. So I'll just go with it. All right. It's called Empty Town. The atmosphere is shifting. Molecules are slowing down to a complete stop in this empty town. Molecules are slowing down the flow of traffic in this empty town. I don't know anyone here anymore. The flow of traffic clots at each intersection. I don't know anyone here anymore. I moved here for a culture. There are clots at each intersection of colorless people that invaded. I moved here for a culture that no longer exists. Colorless people have invaded this town that no longer exists, except as an empty town. Just a couple more really short ones. I saw this movie with Peter Dinklage that I loved called Map of the Stars, so I stole the title of the movie. It has nothing to do with this. Map of the Stars. I want to draw a map of the divine, a new photography of the heavens. The stars are punctured holes in this black scrim like seeds in jars of strawberry preserves. New constellations have appeared tonight. Our eyes have changed their shape in the dark air. The supernova puffs itself with pride. Its light and heat are faint upon the earth. And you are far away from me tonight. A red balloon explodes in the cold sky like Icarus. It could not show restraint. I can't throw my heart to the greedy clouds. I'm standing here pulled south instead of north. The gravity of earth is way too strong. And one more that some of these guys have already heard, but a lot of you have not. I think it's a pantoum. I forgot the paradel. I was studying forms, so that interested me at the time, and now I can't open it. Okay. Well, so maybe we won't read it. Ugh. I guess we won't read it. So I wanted to possibly wrap up with a poem by this Russian poet named Andrei Voznesensky, who was like a rock star in the Ukraine and Russia in the 60s. Everybody owned a copy of his book, but unfortunately, his poems are very few online. There's a book called Anti-Worlds that was in the New York Public Library that blew me away. They're all translations by Merwin and all these guys. And this guy was such a powerful writer that I can't share it with you because I don't have all my love of his to read. Maybe I'll find one. But if you can find Anti-Worlds, there's a poem in there called The Ballad of 1941 that's amazing. I found about him through Best American Poetry, some poet mentioned him. And then I was also looking for Elizabeth Bishop, The Riverman. I have it in our book collection, but I'm not going to go into the other room to read it. So, I was hoping to just sort of jumpstart my poetry writing again, because, it's a good thing to be writing. So we have a little bit of time if we want to just chat or not.
Thanks for putting this together, Tom. That's
Sure,
really nice.
it's my pleasure. It's great to hear you guys. A lot of
Yeah.
You couldn't hear it.
I just said
a lot of great stuff, like a lot of thoughts, like just to hear all the different perspectives and like be reminded of things,
Agreed, especially in a time like right now where it's so isolating. And, I'm one of those people that likes the isolation. I can go into my interests in my books and things like that. But then when you hear the words and they're attached to a person, it really, it makes it special. I loved everything that you guys read. It was inspiring.
Yeah, same here.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, be well, everyone.
Yeah,
Yes.
you too. Shall we do this again sometime?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hit us
Yeah.
up.
I'd love to.
Yeah, you guys just say, yeah, there's some, I'm sort of getting referred a lot of people, and I went to Sarah Lawrence, so there's a couple of hotshot poets, waiting to bust out in there, I'm sure. But yeah, it'd be great if you know anybody who'd be interested in reading, who you dig, that'd be great.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Right.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
have a good.
Thanks for this.
Thank you. Right, quit Zoom. What? No, stop recording. That's good.